What's up? It's your boy. B Slate in the building. What's going on?
Hey yo!
Hey, yo. Man, throwback. Wenzel was
Yeah,
just saying, man, this is taking me way back to last spring. And yeah, he's right. But we're not gonna edit it down and have a bunch of cool intro music and stuff like that because we don't have that kind of time in the fall. We're doing a lot more videos these days, recording every day. So
I I
kind of
feel like last spring was 7 years ago. I think it was.
I think it was as well. I know my beard certainly looks like it was 7 years ago. I'm a lot
Mhm.
more gray, but
Me too. I'm
hey,
getting old.
really quick, folks, welcome. We're going to try to move through this pretty quick, so we're not taking too much of your time. We know it's Thursday. It's the day before a 4-day weekend. You're going to want to get this work done, and so I want to talk about the work first. So I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share. So here's what you can expect to see in your Google Classroom. There is an asynchronous leadership presentation. It's got your last name, first name. Going to ask you to identify which teacher is yours, Wenzel or myself. Really, we're both your teachers, but when it comes to our grades and entering this work into the grade book, it's important that we sort that out for ourselves. So just identify whose roster you're on. You can find that out just by looking at your Google Classroom. And then over today's lesson, there's going to be several opportunities for you to answer questions. The first is about the quotes that I will be sharing. Which of these quotes really resonated with you? I want you to be thinking about that as we go through this lesson today. You're going to hear lots of quotes on character, on leadership, on choices. Just want you to identify one of those that really resonates with you, and then be prepared to tell us why that quote resonated with you. Then we're going to get into a slide with Mr. Wenzel. The question is not whether you're a leader, it's are you effective? So I want you thinking, what do you think we should use to measure our effectiveness as leaders in the student body? I want you thinking about that as you're listening to today's presentation. You're going to be asked really simple, what is our mission at SHS? Mr. Wenzel is going to go over that. You'll hear a quote, your character is never blank, blank, blank. You've already heard this quote, should be pretty easy for you to answer that. What are the 8 essentials? You'll hear me teach on that. What happens to our influence when our choices are more in line with the 8 inessentials? We'll talk about that as well. What happens if we are dishonest? How does that impact the perception others have of our choices? And then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to take this one off because we're going to do the servant triangle at a later date. So that is what you can expect for your homework. You need to complete this before next Wednesday. Again, the deadline for this is before we have class next Wednesday. Would like for you to complete watching this video and the Google form. Any questions out there in the audience? That's what I thought. Okay.
Sound like it.
Let's talk leadership, folks. Welcome. As you know, last year, if you took the class, we were able to hit these slides on day 1, and not this year. Things are very different, right? So we are really going to be talking today about the definition of leadership, what it is, what it isn't, and everything in between. This year's theme is the show goes on. And I think that that is a really powerful theme, really strong theme, fits the time. And so as we go through this course, this is advanced leadership. This is core leadership. We have to have a basic understanding of leadership. And the objective of this class is to influence people. The way we influence people at Sumner High School and beyond, the core, the DNA of our program, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. This is John Maxwell's quote. This quote is powerful because at the end of the day, we are all leaders because we all have influence. It is that simple. We all have influence. The reason you are in this class is to utilize your influence, to leverage your influence in our student body to make Sumner High School a place everyone wants to be every day of the week, and that includes the weekend. Max Dupree said leadership is serious meddling in other people's lives. This is absolutely the truth. When we talk about that concept of influence, we are talking about changing the direction that people are heading. I got a message earlier today from a graduate of Sumner High School. She says, what do you think I would be better at, elementary school teaching or high school teaching? I wrote back high school, and it's not even close. Now, if she chooses to pursue a career in high school education, you want to talk about serious meddling. This was a decision, an elementary school teacher or a high school teacher. This is a career-long, a potentially lifelong decision that's about to get made. This is serious meddling. It is such a privilege to even be asked that question by any graduate, because what they're saying is, you have influence in my life. I care about what you think would be best for me, and I am willing to make a choice of what you think is best for me based on the influence you've earned in my life as a leader in my life. John Wooden, the famous coach, UCLA, he said, leadership is a sacred trust. Take it a step further. It is a sacred bond. It is influence that you have earned as a result of the choices you make in the lives of other people. And that requires relationship. Relationships require trust. When it comes to leadership, we're talking about a sacred trust. Warren Bennett says leadership is character in action. Here's my point. All of these individuals we would call elite leaders, students of leadership. They are all saying the same thing. You know what happens when everyone is saying the same thing and it sounds similar? They know what they're talking about. They agree with each other. It shouldn't take Wenzel and myself. People, we've been classroom leaders for plenty of years now. We know that it takes choices. That's what Warren Bennett is saying. Leadership is choices in action. It is us making choices every single day, day in, day out. General Norman Schwarzkopf, I love this line because he was a general in Operation Desert Storm in the early 1990s. Famous general, led the U.S. Army, said 99% of leadership failures are not failures on the battlefield. They're not failures of tactics or weapons. 99% of leadership failures are failures of character. Mm-hmm. The reason a leader fails is because of the choices that they've made on the clock or off of it. Craig Groeschel says the most influential leaders start with the who and let the do flow from there. I put this quote in there because I think, and you may remember this from last year, we use this as one of our character goal stems. Right now, the time is more important than ever. We tend to focus on the what. We tend to focus on the do more than we focus on the who when we talk about our work in this class. We focus on that what a lot. This year, we need to focus on the who. We need to focus on the people first, and then let our mission toward serving people drive us and steer us into what we do. Mm-hmm. Aristotle, you want to know how long this has been in existence, this concept of character, this concept of influence and leadership? Aristotle says character is a habit. Isn't that interesting? We use that word a lot, habit. He says character is a habit. It's what we do over and over and over again. We got to lean into that character work as leaders. We have to lean into that character work because that character work, those choices that we make and the fuel behind those choices we make is the driving force behind the influence we earn in the lives of other people. More on what is character. James Hunter, right? I got his book right here. World's Most Powerful Leadership Principle. Study this thing inside and out over and over again. He says character is your commitment to doing the right thing. It's fighting that war between what you know is the right thing to do and what you want to do. And notice he calls that a war. He calls it a war. He says, you know what the right thing to do is, and then you know what you want to do. Yeah. That's a war, right? We don't always want to do the right thing. Wentz, you were talking today about your to-be list that you wrote in your advisory class, and the whole school did that today. Everyone, 9, 10, 11, 12, Character Strong Lesson 2, your to-be list. Tell us about what you got going on this evening.
Yeah, we set up a game plan to have my sister-in-law over to watch our 3 kids so we can get some yard work done. And we were doing yard work last night, and I strained my back, and I don't want to. I really don't want to, and I'm really trying to think about getting out of it. But I put on my to-be list that I want to be hardworking, and I said one of the ways I can do that is a commitment to being driven and focused on that yard work tonight, even though I don't honestly feel like it. Now, obviously, there's limits, and if my back is hurt, maybe I shouldn't go out and continue with heavy lifting. But I want to be somebody who is committed to what I say I'm going to do, and I said I was going to do it. So just something to be mindful of, right? As we move forward, our values and our commitments, our character and our emotions can really be at odds. So that's going to be something to pay attention to moving forward. Do you value respect? Okay, well then are your actions reflecting it, right? Are you committed to doing that thing even though you don't really feel like it, even though you're feeling mad and frustrated in whatever the situation may be, okay?
Good. Well, thanks for sharing, Wentz. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point. Are we doing what we know the right thing is, or are we doing what we want to do? And that what we want to do is not the right thing in many cases, right? And that speaks to the tendency of people.
Mm-hmm.
We tend toward the easy, and the easy is the opposite of the 8 essentials in many cases.
Yeah.
Right. And James Hunter continues, your thoughts become your actions. So what you think, and he talks about getting control of your thought life, right? That's where he would say we need to start, is our thought life. The things we think about on a daily basis, those things we think about, they become your actions, and those actions become your habits, and those habits become your character, and that character becomes your destiny. You know, that last sentence, your character becomes your destiny, is a very interesting one. You know, when I wrote this quote down on this slide, I thought to myself, man, that's a big word, destiny. That's a big, big word. Because we're talking about a lifelong objective here. Destiny. It is the future you. So your thoughts, when we swap that out, right? Your character becomes your future you. What that means is that your choices right now easily impact your future and where you're at later. There is absolutely a connection between choices now and where you end up in life. Significant. I remember my sister and I, man, it must have been 10 years now. We spoke at the Sumner High School, not at the graduation, but they have the service, the church service. What's it called?
Baccalaureate.
Baccalaureate. And we gave a speech on, we called it Connecting the Dots. And what we did is we actually connected the dots to the point that we were standing in front of graduates. So we went all the way back to our life as teenagers. And for the kids that were there, we connected all of the dots that had to happen, those weird moments that happened as a result of choices that landed us at Sumner High School, which ultimately landed us in front of graduates talking to them. And that's the point. Is it takes a series of choices that build off of each other. Those series of choices or habits, if they're not good ones, they're not built in strong character, built on strong thoughts, positive thoughts, then your destiny could be impacted by this. And thus comes the definition of leadership. You put it all together, Wenzel, go ahead.
Yeah, this is also from James Hunter, the book that Slater showed you. He spoke at our service conference the first year we had it at the Showware Center. And he takes all of these definitions and boils it down to the definition that we use in this class and says, leadership is the skill, okay, which means we can learn it, of influencing people to enthusiastically work toward goals identified as being for the common good with character that inspires confidence. You've heard this. We've unpacked it and studied it in this course before, okay? But there's a reason why we are reminding those of you who have had the course and taking time to learn and focus on this definition for those of you that haven't had the course before, okay? It is a lot there, okay? There's elements here that are really encouraging for us, okay? And there's elements here that might look like hard work, okay? To say or suggest that it's a skill identifies the idea that you and I aren't born leaders or not leaders. We all can grow in our leadership ability because we can all choose. Okay, it comes back to that. It goes the moment by moment ability to choose. And as we choose to work towards those goals identified as being for the common good, with character that inspires confidence, the enthusiasm will grow. Okay? As we take time to live a life that inspires confidence, people's enthusiasm to work with us and for us will grow. It's called influence. Okay? It's the idea of the law of the harvest that we've talked about before. You reap what you sow. The more you serve me, the more likely I am to want to serve you in return. We've had students before who have said to Mr. Slater and myself, my group isn't doing what I ask. Group leads who have been frustrated that their character isn't inspiring confidence, or that they don't have the skill of influencing people to work enthusiastically towards the goals they've set. And we've said, well, how have you served them? Okay, what have you done? What choices have you made that have inspired confidence? And they're like, I don't know.
So we said, make them some cookies. Yes. I said, make them some cookies. They made them some cookies, wrote them little notes, and what do you know? Group was enthusiastic. Something that small. Hey, you know what it communicated is you're important. And also, I stayed up last night and made y'all cookies. That's called sacrifice. It's called service. While y'all were at home not making me cookies, I was making you cookies. That's leadership. Service and sacrifice.
We should drop our address, Mr. Slater. We should drop our addresses in, the comments in Google Classroom, just in case.
Right.
Or maybe we should find their addresses, right?
Make them cookies, man.
Okay. So here it is. The question is not, am I a leader? This is kind of what we've spoken to. Really, the question for you is rather, am I effective? Okay. What sort of impact am I having in the goals that I have? Okay, if I am effective, I should be able to measure it. So we're going to look at that. Okay, and that is something that we're going to take some time to explore. The thing that, and this is in your Google form, right? This is in your work that you're doing alongside this. What is our common good or our mission? Okay, we want to have that focus for the goal that we're working towards as being for the common good. One of the things that I love about Sumner High School, that drew me to Sumner High School, is it is known for building community. Okay, there's, I would say, something special about Sumner High School, something special about what's built here. And it's not something that happens automatically. I just emailed our staff about this. I think part of what's special about Sumner High School is that we take care of one another. Okay, but that doesn't happen without sacrifice. So we, as a school, can think about this idea. You don't have to be bad to get better. That's a quote that I don't know who is the source of. I heard it actually first from a former administrator of Mr. Knox. He said, and Mr. Knox shared it with me, Mr. Slater's heard it somewhere along the way, but you don't have to be bad to get better. I would say that we have one of the leadership programs around the state that people are looking at. As an example, there's a reason why the service conference started. Schools were saying, what are you doing at your school? And we started to share some of the things that we were doing. But you and I both know that we have room for growth, room for improvement. Okay, there are students within our walls, students at our school who are not saying, I love going to Sumner High School. Sumner's awesome. Okay, rather there are some students whose experiences at our school are not positive. There are some students who are thrilled right now that we're in distance learning. They don't feel safe. They don't feel a part of the community that we're working to build. They feel marginalized and they'd rather stay home. Okay, and therein lies our mission. Okay, to be thinking about character that inspires confidence. You see it here. Character, we've spoken before, is who you are, built by the thousands of choices you make daily. Character is who you are, built by the thousands of choices you make daily. I am a product of the choices I'm making, whether I'm choosing to live out who I want to be or not. Okay? Confidence is a measurable and tangible piece. It's our school climate. We can take a look and see by asking through survey or through other means, just saying, hey, what do you think about Sumner High School? Students are going to be able to speak to their confidence in following. Okay, speak to our influence. We can say that Sumner High School is great. Says who is the question? Says the 60 kids that are in the advanced leadership program? Okay, says who? So what does this all mean? Mr. Slater, are you taking this slide here?
Sure.
Okay.
What this means, every single person in this class at Sumner High School, when we think about, when I look at my history classes, when somebody acts up outside of my class, it's not a reflection of my history program. It's not a reflection of my IB history class. Somebody makes poor choices outside of school. The kids aren't looking at those choices and saying, well, what's going on? What's going on in that IB history program? You're an IB history student, right? Why are you doing those things? They don't do that. It's not how it works, because we don't teach about character in that class. When we talk about core leadership, when you signed up for this class, when you said, I want to be a part of this mission, I want to be a part of making Sumner High School a place where everyone wants to be, you signed up for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week of observation. Your peers know that you're in leadership, and they are watching you, and they know that Sumner High School's leadership program is touted, is flaunted because of our focus on character. We talk about the 8 essentials. We talk about unconditional love. Every single choice you make does one of 3 things, and this is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every choice you make that is observable by any member of the Sumner High School community does one of 3 things. It either builds confidence in our class and our mission. It may maintain the confidence in our mission, or it might cost us confidence in the mission. It's why so many of us in this class need to hold each other accountable. When you're out at a gathering and people are taking pictures, whatever you're doing, right? You need to be thinking, is this a positive reflection of the mission of the Sumner High School Leadership Program? Your character, our mission, is never off the clock. Your character is never off the clock. We'll get kids later. I'm going to be gone on vacation next week. Do I need to do the character log? Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to be gone. Yes, but your character is not. You're still going to be making choices. On vacation or not, you still make choices. So our mission / your character, they are the same thing. It is never off the clock. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is exhausting. It is a tireless effort. People are always watching, and they know that you are a representative of Sumner High School because you serve in our advanced core leadership course. And so let's talk about those choices. Let's talk about that character. Think about it. Think about these choices, okay? You get to choose every day of the week, every moment you interact with another person, and if it's an emotional moment, even better. I tell kids all the time, they make a poor choice. First and foremost, before we talk about what you did, I want to thank you for this opportunity that you gave me to prove it. They're like, what are you talking about? Before we get to what you did, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to prove that I am capable of living out the values that I told you on day 1 I would live out. So in the next couple minutes as we talk, I promise that I'm going to be patient with you, that I'm going to be kind to you, respectful, that I will be forgiving, that I'm going to be honest with you. I'm committed to your growth. I'm going to put your needs ahead of my own. And I'm going to do my best not to steal the spotlight. Try to be humble. Now think about if we rewind and I tell the kid, hold on, we go all the way back to the beginning of that situation. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you being that way? Stop it. Can you believe that? I mean, how old are you? Are you 6 or are you 16? Like, imagine approaching a kid like that. What is my influence going to be doing? How is my influence in that individual student's life if I'm approaching them that way? 8 of these choices are more likely to build and maintain influence, and 8 of these choices are likely to harm or damage influence. It's that easy. You know, people, they might mock the 8 essentials. Oh, 8 essentials. Oh, 8 essentials. Oh, right? You hear them say that. Really, frankly, they're tired. They've heard it a lot. They're like, I know it. I know it. It's patient. It's kindness. It's honest. It's humble. Right? Really, These are always going to be right. We know they're always going to be right because we believe in the objective truth that people were built for relationships. And if we are built for relationships, we have to be skilled at maintaining relationships. And if we are skilled at maintaining relationships, then we are skilled at being patient and kind and humble and respectful and selfless and forgiving and honest and committed. But they are all part of your free will. All of these choices, you get to choose to make the choices you make.
Yeah.
If we choose to be dishonest, let's go to dishonesty. In my opinion, this is the master choice. This is the most important of the essentials, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion. The most important is honesty. Because if we don't believe somebody is an honest person, then it is really hard to believe that what they're doing is kind, is genuine kindness, is genuine patience, is genuine humility, is genuine respectfulness, is genuine selflessness. Like, is that an actual forgiveness, or are you just saying it, like, because it sounds good? Is it genuine committedness, right? Or just a genuine commitment? That honesty piece, when we think about it, our other choices are really hard to be perceived as real if people don't believe that what we're doing is genuine. And I want to be very careful here when I say this. It still shouldn't matter, right? At the end of the day, if our choices are patient and kind and humble and respectful and selfless, forgiving, honest, and committed, somebody says, I don't believe you, so what? That is a conversation for you and that person to have later. Really, if somebody's unwilling to tell you that they don't perceive what you're doing is real or honest, well, that's their character, not yours. Their values, if they believe in honesty, they too should be saying, this is what I believe. Now, obviously, when they do it, it should be done in a respectful manner, a patient manner, a kind manner, with forgiveness in their heart, right? Not that jaded, bitter, resentful nature that we see sometimes, right? So there you go.
I was going to say too, sorry. I was going to say too, the more consistent you are, the easier your honesty is to believe. I think that's one of the things that I've realized and recognized in my own life is that my consistency is also going to inspire confidence. If it's the case that I'm one way in front of my students and another way if you're to talk with my wife or my children or my mother, okay, now all of a sudden I'm not so sure if I can trust that your character is worthy of me following, right? Because I don't know if it's really the authentic you. And to be honest with you, I know that that consistency piece is hard. That's part of the battle. That's part of the war that James Hunter is talking about, is that it isn't easy. Okay, if it were easy, everyone would do it. And our world would just be this beautiful little place where everyone's happy and we, walk around puppies and, chase butterflies. But that's not the reality. We have a world that is challenging, right? And every moment that we turn around, here's another opportunity for us to show up. Here's another opportunity for us to blow up. I just thought of that. Was that good, Mr. Slater?
Ooh, that was nice, man.
Thank you. I don't know. It just came.
Just inspiration.
But honestly, it's true. I can decide when I leave this room that I'm in and re-enter time with my family, how I approach each of those moments with my kids. Okay. And it's not going to get a lot easier unless we start practicing now who it is that we truly want to be. Yeah. And it starts with our thoughts, right? Like Mr. Slater said. So let's be people who decide we want to collectively be about this work, because it's going to be something that requires people to come alongside us and say and remind us that it's worth it. Okay. And
so with that, we'll wrap. I want to just thank everyone that's watching. You are incredibly inspiring people to Mr. Wenzel and myself. I think back over the years that I've been at Sumner High School. I got here in 2008 and have been here ever since. And I just think about how incredibly inspirational our student leaders have been for me It is a privilege to have the opportunity to talk about influence with you and to get in the trenches alongside of you and serve with you, serve our student body and our staff alongside of you, and beyond that, right? Because we do the service conference as well. That's 4,000 people beyond the walls of Sumner High School, beyond our community. And it's just such a privilege. I'm really excited to get going this year. We are getting started. It's time to find some small victories. I want every person out there, as you wrap, as you think about the end of this lesson, to be thinking, what little thing can I do today? What little thing can I do? Who can I reach out to today to show them that they matter to me, that they are important, that as a member of fellow member of the Sumner High School community, that they're important. That might be reaching out to staff members. It might be reaching out to peers, just a small little Spartan Pridegram, which is in your Google Classroom right now. That can make a world of difference. Those little tiny things, that's your character. And when I say I get inspired, I watch sometimes and I'm just like, I don't know how you do this. I think about Nick Yoakum and Caden Schmidt and all of the kids who came before them, all the way back to John Norland, standing at the door every single day, every morning, getting there early, and they're tired. And I remember thinking with John Norland, Mr. Norland, there's no way this guy's real. There's no way that there are people with this strong a character. It can't be possible. And I watched him like a hawk, and that dude didn't waver. And I was just inspired. Like, man, if he can do it, so can I. That's our goal.
Yeah. And you know that we don't have to look very far to see people that are hurting, right? Let's be paying attention and do what we can to meet the needs of people, you know, to take time to act on what we notice and take time to care for those around us in our families, in our social circles, outside of our social circles, checking in on kids who you know might be struggling, especially during this time. And let's be getting after it. We can't underestimate the impact that we could have. Sometimes it's the fear of our impact that keeps us from acting. We're like, do I really have that potential? Could I really be the person who is a difference maker in the lives of others? Well, I hope so, because you have been in many of our lives. So let's continue to recognize our own potential to be difference makers. Yeah. Cool.
So with that, y'all, we're going to send you off. Have a great weekend. We will see you again next Wednesday. Y'all take good care. Your character is never off the clock. Let's get it. Bye-bye.
Peace.